Namaste. Welcome back to your mat. Today's video will be all about the hips. So go ahead and get your space all set up. I'm just going to light some incense, maybe tidying up your space or lighting a candle. Whatever you need to do to make yourselves feel safe and relaxed. Now, the hips and hamstrings tend to be a place of the body that hold a lot of emotional tension. So as we move through this hip opening practice, if you notice any sensations coming up, please feel free to take a child's pose, pause the video, and come back in when you're ready. Make your way into a seated position and bring your toes and heels to touch for butterfly pose. You really want to be able to feel a stretch here, so you might need to bring your heels a little bit closer to your center. Press on your knees or hold on to your ankles and lift the chest up to breathe in. Exhale, letting it go, sinking your hips heavy into the mat. Feel free to use Ujjayi breath here. Ujjayi breath heats up the body, and it's a really beautiful mind-body connection with your breath. So inhale, nice and deep. Exhale, sigh it out as if you're breathing onto a mirror and fogging it up. Inhale. Exhale. For your next few breaths, use that same raspy, restricted feeling, but close your mouth instead. Find your exhale. This breath can guide you through any of the uncomfortable poses, especially in hip opening poses. We'll come into a comfortable seated position. Close your eyes. Inhale, reach your arms up overhead, palms touch. Exhale, bring your right hand to your right hip crease and lean over to the right side. If the bind is too much, drop the right hand beside your right hip. Lean over, reaching the left arm to the right side. Gaze can lift. Keep your right hand where it is and bring your left to your right hip. Hinge from the hips, folding over the arms, rounding the back. Rise up, keep the left hand where it is. Reach the right arm overhead, leaning over to the left. Always option to release the bind. Otherwise, bring the gaze up, keep the right hip planted. Come back to center. Inhale. Exhale, release the bind, walk the hands forward, fold over the legs. Slowly start to rise back up. Come back to tall spine. And we'll make our way into a tabletop position. Floating between the palms and the knees. And just find some motion with your hips, circling them out one way, shifting your weight forward and side to side. Sending your hips backwards towards your heels. There's no real right or wrong way to do this. Just listen to your body and it will tell you what to do. Warming up the spine, warming up the hips. Making sure to go both directions. Return to your tabletop with a flat back. Engage your core and find a couple of hip circles here. First moving one way, waking up the joint. And switch directions. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Drop the right toes out to the side and reach the left arm up overhead. Feeling a gentle stretch down the right leg. Keep reaching the left arm up to the sky. Lifting the chest. Bring the hand back down to meet the left and heel toe your foot between your palms, low lunge. Make sure you shift your weight forward so the back leg is extended long. Breathe here. Then tuck the back toes under. Shift your weight back towards your left heel for a half split. If you'd like to use a block here, go ahead. You can use them beside your extended leg as a support for your upper body, as I'm doing in the video. Or you can even bring the block underneath your right hip so that you can sit upon it. Whatever you choose to do, try to keep a nice straight back, pulling the right toes towards your face to keep everything engaged. Remove any blocks, set them off to the side, and make your way back into that low lunge. Then send your right leg back to meet the left. Repeating that on the other side now, we're going to start the hip circles with the left leg. Waking up the joint. This pose is really great because the hip joint is a ball and socket. So finding your full rotation here. Switch directions. Last one here. And extend the left leg out long, toes pointing down. Reach up with the left arm, feeling that stretch down the left leg. Come back through center, bring the left foot between your hands for your low lunge. Bring the right leg back out long, untuck the toes, low lunge. Make your way into half split, shifting your weight back. Again, the option to use the blocks at your hips or coming to sit your left hip onto the block. Pull the toes towards the face. Keep a flat back. And breathe through any of the discomfort. Walk yourself back forward. Send the left toes back down to meet the right. Tabletop. Tuck the back toes under, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Pedal it out here. Ease your hamstrings into this. Bending one knee and then the other. Move your body any way that feels good here. Maybe shifting your weight forward and back. Come onto the tippy toes, lifting the heels, and bend your knees a lot. Let your belly rest on your thighs. And straighten the legs, send the heels towards the mat. It's okay if they don't reach. And again, bend the knees, come onto the tippy toes, and straighten them back down. Keep the left heel planted, reach the right leg up to the sky for 3-point. Bend at the knees, and begin to stack the right hip on top of the left. Bring it back down to meet the left, and repeat this on the other side. The left leg up to the sky, bend the knee, and feel that opening across the front of the left hip. Come back down to your downward dog, and give yourself a breath. Start to walk your feet up towards your hands and find a forward fold. Find some movement here, swaying from side to side, bending the knees as much as you need. You can grab onto opposite elbows for ragdoll, shaking your head yes and no. And plant the palms, bend the knees a lot, and begin to straighten the left leg long. Bring a bend back into it, and now straighten the right leg. Inhale, bend. Exhale, straighten them both. Inhale, find the bend. Exhale to straighten. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, hold here. Start to rise up. Rolling up, head is the last to rise, palms touch overhead. Lower your hands to your hips and bring your weight into your right foot. Bend the left knee, pausing here as we set up for tree pose. Open the left knee out to the side. And you can keep the toes on the ground, or you can start to lift the left foot anywhere along the inside of the right leg. Find your point of focus so you can hold your balance. And if you're particularly balanced today, you can hold on to your left ankle and place it at the top of your right thigh. Very micro bend into the right leg to support your ankle a little bit. But if you can't hold this foot here, come back and place it to the inside of your right leg. Breathing here. Find your true expression with your branches. Your palms can be at heart center or above your head, at your sides. Bring your hands to heart center wherever you are. Take hold of your left foot and place it to the top of your right thigh, just above your knee. So we're coming into a standing figure 4 shape here. Start to hinge your weight forward. Keep your back nice and flat. Bring your hands to heart center and keep bending into that standing leg. Almost like a one-legged chair. Going to really start to feel this into the left hip, around into the left glute. You'll also feel your right standing leg really start to shake and burn. Slowly rise up, release the left leg down to the ground and shake it out. Bring your weight into your left standing leg now. Place your hands on your hips and start to bring your right leg out to the side. Placing that right foot anywhere along the inside of the left leg. Taking your time to find your balance. Inhale to reach the crown of the head high. Exhale, keep pressing the right knee behind you. Those are the two key motions that you're aiming for in this tree. So while it looks like we're standing still, we actually have these micro movements going on. So inhale to lift, exhale to press the right knee back. And if you have your balance today, you can find whatever expression with your arms you'd like. Reaching your branches out tall or even at your heart center. We're going to start to come into that figure 4 shape. Bringing the ankle up just above the left knee, sitting the hips down, bending a bit more into the left standing leg. Find your point of focus. If you're struggling to find your balance today, feel free to hold on to a wall so that you can really get into this pose and feel the stretch into the right hip. Lift the chest, release the right leg to the ground, and shake it out. Return to mountain pose. And then step your feet just a bit wider than hip width apart. And then sink your hips down, bending the knees. Bring your hands to heart center, bringing your elbows to the inside of your thighs. So press your thighs into your elbows, elbows into your thighs. Keep lowering the hips so that they're in line with your knees. You can find some motion here, rocking side to side. Plant the palms, lift the hips and straighten the legs, and rise up to stand. Keep your legs as they are. We'll come right back into this. Hands to heart center, drop down, elbows to legs. And now you can stay where your hips are in line with your knees, or you can drop your hips all the way down for a yogi squat. To help you in this full version of the pose, you can sit your hips onto a block or two so that you can relax a little bit. Malasana is a really deep hip opening stretch and strengthens at the same time. Plant the palms in front of you, lift the hips and straighten the legs. Roll slowly up to stand. Give yourself a breath. Bring your hands back to your hips. Sink your hips down. Find your hands at heart center, elbows to thighs. And breathe. Maybe challenge yourself and remove a block or two. Stay here. You can find a twist. Place the right hand down in front of you and reach the left arm up to the sky. Gaze can follow your fingertips. Coming back down, bring hands to heart center. And then place the left hand down, reaching the right arm up to the sky. Keep lifting the chest. Keep pressing the knees behind you. Breathe. And come back to center. One more full breath here. And then plant the palms. Lift the hips nice and slow, straightening the legs. And roll up to stand. Breathe here. Sway your legs side to side. Stand on one leg and shake the other out. And we'll return to the top of our mat. If you aren't there already, arms at your side mountain pose. Place your hands on your hips. Weight comes into the right foot and send your left toes back for high lunge. Find your blocks and frame them around your right foot. Keep reaching your heel over the toes in the back and lunge into the front leg. You'll feel a really deep stretch coming across the front of the left hip as well as into the right glute. Weight is holding yourself up with the blocks so you can really sink into this lunge. Holding for a few more breaths. Walk your right block to the inside of your right foot and walk yourself to a wide-legged forward fold facing alongside of your mat. Now you can experiment here, playing with the depth of the pose. You can stay with your hands on each block or you can stack them. You can drop your chest a little bit lower, coming to the mat or a couple of blocks. You can even try placing a block underneath your head. Be playful with this pose, but make sure that you don't force yourself or your hamstrings into something that you're not ready for. If you'd like to stay here, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to cue a twist, bringing your hands back under your face, lifting the chest up slightly, and then bring your left hand to grab onto your right ankle. Once you can reach either your ankle or somewhere along the leg, see if you can reach the left arm up to the sky. Lowering it down and then walking over to the opposite side, grabbing right ankle with your left arm. Right arm reaches up to the sky and you twist with your upper body. Bring your hands back down in front of your face. Find your blocks and we're going to walk to the back of our mat, finding that high lunge. Use the blocks to frame your front foot and sink into this lunge. Make sure that your left knee isn't creeping beyond your ankle. Drop the hips a little bit here so you can feel an opening across the front of the right hip. Shift your weight forward and back. Find a little bit of extra movement here. Still holding onto the blocks, walk them back to center. Instead of wide-legged forward fold this time, heel toe your toes a little bit together. Feet are pointing at 45-degree angle, even a little bit wider. Inhale, reach your arms up to the sides and sink your hips down low, bending the knees externally. Add a little bit of extra motion here, shifting from one foot to the other. But anytime you need, straighten the legs and then come back into it. Maybe dropping your hips a little bit lower. Keep pressing your knees out to the sides. Bring your hands to the thighs. Press the knees a little bit wider. Drop the left shoulder down to center, finding a twist here. Breathe. Rising out of the twist and switching sides, dropping the right shoulder to center, twisting over to the left. Rise out of the twist. Breathe here. And then slowly rise up. Heel toe the toes together. Walk up to the top of your mat and find a mountain pose. Bring your hands to your hips and with a flat back, fold over. Drop your hands onto two blocks and we're going to step back into a downward dog. This supported downward dog is really good to make sure that we're coming into the pose correctly. Something that's really common in downward dog is that we want to keep the legs straight and we round the back, shifting our weight forward. We really want to lift the hips, drop the heart toward the ground. Bend your knees as much as you need and lift the heels off the ground so that you can get this flat, low back. Drop the knees down to the ground. Remove the blocks and place them off to the side for now. We'll set up for frog next. So we'll pull in each side of your yoga mat so the knees have an extra cushion. Once your mat is set up, we will place the knees each onto one of the folded sections of your mat. Point the toes out to the sides and line the ankles with the knees and the knees with the hips. If you'd like to lessen the stretch, shift your weight forward so your hips are in front of your knees. You can come onto your forearms or a block. And now we'll be holding this stretch for a couple of minutes, so make sure that you're not forcing yourself all the way to your edge right now. Let time and gravity slowly let you come into this. Make sure that you do still feel a really deep stretch. This pose is not the most comfortable and it can be very difficult to breathe through this. Try to stick with it, but if you need to, lessen the stretch. One more full cycle of breath. And bring your toes and heels to touch. Bring your block with you and we'll set up for child's pose. So straighten out your mat again. Place a block underneath your hips. Bring your toes close together and open your knees out to the sides of your mat. Lower your upper body down towards the ground. You can even bring a block underneath your forehead and rock your head side to side, massaging out between your eyebrows. Coming out of this, remove any blocks and props. We'll take a closed-legged child's pose. So bringing the knees together, bring your arms behind you, maybe the fingers interlace behind your hips. Bring your forehead to relax onto the mat. Breathe into the back body. Squeeze your legs a little closer together. Bring your hands under your shoulders and start to roll up very slowly to a seated position. Setting up for fire log here. Sitting the hips down, extending the legs in front of you. Right shin is directly in front of you, nice and straight. And then bring the left leg and stack it right on top. So this is not sitting cross-legged. Our right heel is directly under our left knee, and our left heel is directly on top of our right knee. So instead of having the toes pointing out and relaxed, bring the toes to be flexed towards your knees. Use a blanket or a block under your left knee if it's floating in the air. Otherwise, if this is too uncomfortable for you, hold butterfly pose with your toes and heels touching for the duration of each side. Keep pulling your ankles and knees to be stacked on top of each other if they're slipping. You can shift your weight forward, deepening the pose a little bit more. It might be comfortable to bring your forearms onto a couple blocks in front of you. If you're folded forward, start to rise up, remove any blocks, unbind your legs and windshield wiper them out from side to side. We'll repeat this on the other side, placing the left leg down in front of you, making sure it's squared off, and then stacking the right leg right on top of that. You really want to make sure that you're seeing a complete triangle in with your legs. Flex the toes and really keep this active. Notice if your right knee is lifted, supporting it where necessary. Folding forward, coming onto the blocks whenever you're ready. Shift your weight back up. Remove any props or blocks that you may have used. Bring the feet hip width apart and drop them over to the left. Lift the knees and drop them over to the right. Bring your knees together, your feet together, and give yourself a big hug here. Bring your forehead towards the knees. Breathe into the back body. Come into a tabletop position and extend the right leg out to the side. Reach the right arm to the sky, just like we did at the beginning of this class. Bring the right hand down and heel toe the foot towards the right wrist. For lizard lunge, send the left leg back so you can feel an opening down the front of the left hip. And experiment here. You can come onto the outside of the right foot. You can lower onto forearms or a block. Breathing into this deep stretch. Walk yourself up. Remove any blocks and we'll set up for pigeon. Keep heel toeing your right foot all the way over to the left side of your mat. And notice your hips. Square them off. And if you notice that your right hip is floating in the air, make sure you support it with a block. It's sometimes easy to just dump all your weight into the right hip, like I'm doing in the video here. Instead, shift your weight forward, pull your left hip towards the ground, and support your right hip with a block or a blanket. It's important to have this support because you can trick your brain into letting your muscles relax and really open up. Whereas if it's not supported and your hip is floating in the air, then your muscles are still staying engaged and have a harder time to relax. You can walk your hands all the way down to the ground. Let your forehead rest on the mat or a block. And try to relax the mind, relax the breath, and relax the body. When you're ready, very carefully and slowly rise up. Tuck the back toes under and lift yourself into a tabletop. Extend the left leg out to the side. Toes are pointed. Reach the left arm to the sky. Open across the chest. And lower back down. Heel toe the left foot in to the side of the mat for dragon on the left side. Make sure your right leg is extended long. And experiment with this pose here. You can keep the foot planted to the ground or let your knee fall open to the side, coming onto the knife edge part of your left foot. You can lower onto your forearms or a block. Let this really deep stretch feel good for you. Start to come into pigeon for your next side, removing any blocks, and heel toe the left foot to the right side of your mat. Stay lifted for a breath or two. Make sure that your left hip is supported just as your right hip one was. So you might notice that the one side is a little bit different from the other. Just be kind to your body, accepting that there's differences from side to side. You may even notice at the beginning of the pose you need a block, but then closer to the end of the pose you might not need it. You might want to remove it. Relax the body for a few more deep breaths. And slowly roll onto your hip and come into a seated position, bringing your knees in front of you, wrapping your arms around your legs. Give yourself another big hug. You may need to shift your weight to the bottom of your mat. We're going to roll nice and slow all the way onto our backs. Bring the feet to the mat, knees together. Cross the right ankle over the left thigh, just under the left knee. Press the right knee away from you, or you can lift the left foot off the ground, interweaving your fingers, wrapping them around your hamstring or shin of the left leg. Inhale to lengthen into your mat. Exhale to hug the knee in close to you. For this next pose, you might want to take a peek at the video. We're going to cross the right leg all the way over the left, like we're sitting cross-legged in a chair. But then we will grab for opposite feet. Right hand grabs for the left foot. The left hand grabs for the top of the right foot. And pull them in towards your hips. If this is ever too much, feel free to come back into that supine figure 4 shape. One more breath. And then release the feet. Let the left foot come down to the ground and cross the knees all the way over to the right side for a supine twist. Arms can come out long beside you. Gaze can go over to the right. Gently activate the core. Use the left hand to lift the knees back to center. Unbind the legs and windshield wiper them out side to side. Crossing the left leg over the right leg. Breathe here, pushing the left knee away from you. And when you're ready, if it's in your practice, you can hug the right knee in towards your chest. One more breath here. And we'll keep sending the right leg all the way over the left, finding that bind, grabbing onto the ankles and pulling them down towards your hips. Try to relax the muscles, sink a bit heavier into the mat. Close the eyes and breathe. Releasing the toes, bringing the right foot to the ground, and drop the knees over to the right side. Stacking the hips, gaze can come over to the left. Bring the knees back to center, uncross the legs, and bring the toes and heels to touch, opening the knees like a book for reclined cobbler's pose. Placing a block underneath your head to lengthen the back of the neck and massage out the base of the scalp, rocking the head side to side. Place your right hand on your belly and your left hand on your heart to connect with your body for a few more full cycles of breath. Whenever you're ready, remove the block from under your head and extend your legs long to the corners of your mat. Arms come to your sides for your final Savasana. Scan over your body, starting with your toes, working your way up to your hips, and notice any sensations. Notice any differences from the beginning of your class. If you would like to stay in your Shavasana for a little while longer, please feel free to pause the video. Otherwise, roll over onto your right side using your right arm as a pillow, fetal position. Press into your left hand and push yourself up into a seated position, closing your eyes and bowing your head. Thank you for joining me in today's hip opening class. I hope to see you in the next video soon. The light in me sees and acknowledges the light in you and knows that they are the same. Namaste.